Hello, everyone. I see people are joining us. Apologies for a bit of a delay. We had some technical difficulties here, but I'm glad that we have our speakers with us, Lenny and Sofia, and then we'll just give a few more minutes. I see, I think a few more people are going to be joining. We'll just give them some time to hop on the call and get transferred to the webinar room. I know you were in the waiting room for a little bit. And I just want to say that today's topic of the seminar, of our webinar, is related to June being a Pride Month. And Unite Help Ukraine is an organization that not only defends, supports, promotes humanitarian assistance, medical supplies, and psychological aid to all people affected by war, but we also do that regardless of identity, background, or affiliation. I think this is basic humanitarian principles, and Unite Help Ukraine as a humanitarian organization, we follow them closely, and we stand with communities here in the US and communities in Ukraine, whether it's those who are affected more, whether those communities of vulnerable populations that we support in Ukraine. And we've had several webinars so far on advocacy, on human rights, on returning Ukrainian children back to Ukraine from Russia who are illegally abducted. We also want to stand, and we also stand with the LGBTQ plus community worldwide. And we are happy that we were, for the second year in a row, our organization was taking part in Pride Parade. This year, World Pride was in Washington, D.C. And we wanted to continue and close a month of June talking about human rights, about challenges that LGBTQ community faces in Ukraine and also worldwide. We have excellent speakers with us who understand this topic very well. They're leaders and activists, and really shaping up we'll shape up this conversation, but they've been shaping up our understanding and opening the doors for some of the members of this community. And I'm very happy that we have Lenny Emson with us and Sofia Lapina. I'll give a brief introduction of both of them, and then Lenny and Sofia, you can have some remarks about your backgrounds, your connection to Ukraine, your connection to LGBTQ plus community in Ukraine and in the country where you currently reside. I know, Lenny, you're in Canada, for example, right? Sofia, are you still in Ukraine?
I'm just 2 hours ago came back to London.
Okay, so now you're in London. Great.
Yeah, because right for now I'm working in Parliament of Great Britain to advocate human rights, aids, and military support for Ukraine as
Thanks,
well.
Sophia. So we can start with
it's
you.
very connected with LGBT, but I will explain it a little bit
That's
more.
great. So I'll start with you, Sofia, then, and I'll give a brief introduction of your background. Sofia Lapina is a human rights defender and a hate crimes expert. She's been fighting homophobia in Ukraine for more than 6 years now, and she worked on police reform. She has experience working with the UN and OSCE, and she also gained some professional experience in the US, being invited by the US Department of State's International Leadership Program. And Sofia has become one of the leading voices in the LGBT community in Ukraine and worldwide. In 2018, Sofia received the Top 30 Under 30 award from the oldest English language newspaper, Kyiv Post. I know a lot of a lot of people that are in our audience, and myself including, really read this newspaper and continue to follow Kyiv Post developments. And We know that for her contribution to the development of democratic values in Ukrainian society, this is a great achievement and a great recognition by Ukrainians. In 2021, Sofia, with her partners and supporters, created their own NGO called Ukraine Pride. So Sofia, I'll turn it to you. Can you just give us a few a few minutes of the background, how you your involvement with the community in Ukraine, and what is that you're doing on the world wide arena to support those in Ukraine? And you just mentioned that you were in the parliament in London advocating for more military aid. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for your cooperation and for what we already done. And I hope that's only beginning, because we have a very big imagination and inspiration. So yeah, you need to be prepared a little bit. Let's say this like this. Yeah, so when we started our organization like 5 years ago in Ukraine, previously I used to be in Kyiv Pride, the same or even more well-known organization, but the thing happens there that my vision was more creative, so we just decided not to split like organizations or something or blah 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 and organize our own organization. And now, for example, as I understand, and as I used to talk with my colleagues from Kyiv Pride, we both, like Kyiv Pride and Ukraine, we faced pretty much similar pressure from the government and from the police as the previous year, but they started from all of the fronts, let's say. Like they always suppression the organizers, like you can do this, you will not survive, you will die, you will blah 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 blah. And when we try and I mean, we like anyone of LGBTQI, or even maybe not even, but more Pride organization during the Pride Month, because it's the most visible thing and the most visible thing to do for police. And they are naturally, previously when Avako was our main policeman, let's say, and he used to get a lot of money for police reform. So he used to get to have like guys who are beating Pride and guys like police who are protecting Pride. And it was like his kind of like the theater, like for Europeans, like, okay, just take a look, like, yeah, reforms is happened because my guys, for example, police, they are protecting Pride from that bad far rights. But that bad far rights, they was like created by them as well. So that's just small off top. Yeah, so but now we more specific to like Ukraine Pride, especially because we were created just before the war. We are more specific on creative media and popular speakers audience, because we don't have that much people in our work team, just only 3 person. Yeah, so we try and what we do during the week, not week, Pride months, like we communicating with our foreign partners to organize Pride abroad, because that's very important. For example, you were our partners for the first year, and thank you so much. It's such a pleasure for us and such a big support. But previous 4 years, we used to collaborate with the Ukrainian organization based in UK. And that's as well very important, as Kuleba, our previous Minister of Foreign Affairs, said that Ukrainians, it doesn't matter what they believe, what they do, where they work, they always need to build strong communities. Because, for example, in Canada, everyone who goes to votes, to voting for something, like to get some place in oh my god, in chair place in government, they understand that Ukrainian community in Canada that is such big that if they will not win that community, they will lose most of the voices. Yeah, and that's what Kuleba talking about, and that's very much like similar to us, because we try and talk not only about LGBTQI plus people. We always talking, if we go into the parade out of the broad, like we always we never go and like by ourselves, like Ukraine Pride. We always trying to communicate with the local, the most powerful, let's say powerful or visible Ukrainian community, who is the voice of the Ukraine. And yeah, first time it was not easy, but last time for this year they started the battle who of them must be the main partner of Ukraine Pride and London Pride. And the most funny thing that I know that most of them was homophobic, but now they started to understand how much is important to be visible and to show to their partners that they are the same. So yeah, so that's like shortly what we are doing.
Thanks, Sofia. I think this is interesting to hear about development of these partnerships with the organization and abroad. And I want to turn now the light to Lenny Emson. And Lenny is a board member, Outright International, Ukrainian-born. He's a human rights activist with about 20 years of experience in LGBTQI rights. He went all the way from a grassroots activist to an international human rights defender. And Lenny, as a proud Ukrainian, was leading the largest pride organization in the region, Kyiv Pride. And through post-COVID and later in the midst of the Russian invasion, Lenny is supporting a massive humanitarian aid program for LGBTQI community in Ukraine. And also, Lenny is a founder of Pride in UA NGO that works in Kyiv, Ukraine. Lenny supports local activist efforts to continue the fight for LGBTQI community that is suffering from Russian aggression and the war. Lenny also identifies as a bi-gender individual and was previously a member of the grant-making panel of the International Trans Fund. And now Lenny serves as a board member and executive director for TGEU and also a president of EPOA. You can tell us more about so many titles that you have. I think that you're juggling a lot, and really, I'm I'm saying I know I juggle a lot of titles, but I see a lot of a lot of communities that you're part of, and this is great. Lenny, just tell a little bit about yourself. I know you were born in Ukraine, you're now in Canada, your transition, and also all those organizations that you support in different capacities, executive director or board member or founder. That's quite a lot, and thank you for your very active position.
Thank you so much, Marina. Thank you. And yeah, just like, briefly add something to this beautiful introduction that, of course, like, time flies, right? So I was there at the very beginning of Ukrainian LGBTQI movement, right? So starting like end of 90s, right? When homosexuality was decriminalized in Ukraine, and first on a kind of, post-colonial space, as we call it, right? So never say post-Soviet, that's post-colonial space, right? So, and Ukraine was the first to decriminalize homosexuality, and in 1993, so the first groups, LGBTQI groups, started to rise, right? And in 1996, the first LGBT organization, LGBT association, Liga, was registered, and I was a part of Liga for quite a probably kind of 2 decades, right? So, and I still support the organization. Right, and I saw, the rises and falls of Ukrainian LGBTQI movement, right? And at the time when invasion started, I was serving as executive director of KyivPride, right? So, and that was the moment when we kind of struck this this issue that is really, I think, on the table still now. So, what do we do as LGBTQI community? How we remain visible in the times when our whole existence as a country, as a nation, is under threat, right? So what do we do to support our nation in its fight, right? And how we respond to the threat that is directed on all the communities, not just LGBTQI, right? So it was a very challenging time, and we started reframing all the services all over Ukraine. Almost all LGBTQ organizations turned into humanitarian support for our community, right? Because LGBTQI community was absolutely overlooked and left behind. So humanitarian aid, humanitarian support, not just state institutions, but international organizations, big humanitarian NGOs coming in Ukraine, they were absolutely not aware of LGBTQI community as a special social group that has its needs and needs to be addressed. And Outright International, as international organization that helps LGBTQI communities globally, stepped in at the moment. Outright was supporting over 30 organizations in Ukraine and Poland. So organizations who support LGBTQI community in the country and refugees fleeing the country. And actually Outright was engaged with all the actors that at the time were active in LGBTQI humanitarian support. And that was the question, right? How we make LGBTQI community visible at the whole kind of giant scale of a humanitarian response. What do we do to make the community visible, right? So, and since 2023, Outright was actively engaged with making LGBTQI community visible on the highest levels of humanitarian response, right? Starting with kind of, small organizations helping communities on the ground, and kind of ending with the UN and like policymakers, like those organizations who define what is humanitarian response on a global scale, right? So, and I think like at the moment, Ukraine presents a unique case. We are the first country where LGBTQI community was looked at as a separate social group in the context of humanitarian response. This is a huge step forward, and I think like for further generations and for the kind of war situations in different countries, that would be a role model that many countries can follow and many communities can benefit from. Well, so that's pretty much it, right? So Marina, thank you.
Yeah, this is great, Lenny. And I just want to follow up right after this statement, because I think this is very important. And then again, we see Ukraine at the front line of a lot of changes politically, socially. The war brought up also a lot of changes within the society. And what you mentioned was very interesting, that we are the first country that will have this unique experience now with the LGBTQI community identify with as a separate group in terms of needs and humanitarian responses that might be different. And I just want to sort of follow up on this, since I know, Sofia, you have your hand, but maybe Lenny, you can start with this. But I think this is something that I was curious about, that in your experience, do you see that the needs are different for the community, and how from others? What is it that LGBTQI people are facing? What are the challenges, maybe compared to general population? Also, how differently the war and invasion has impacted LGBTQ plus Ukrainians specifically. So knowing that the response might be different and was different, and then I was just interesting how you compare it in terms of this difference.
Thank you for this question. Right, it arises a lot, right, and actually, the needs of LGBTQI community in crisis are a continuation of the oppressive systems, right, and discrimination that LGBTQI community experience in kind of peaceful time, right. So, I mean, kind of, for example, the access to a job market, right? So we all know that LGBTQI community is like widely discriminated when we talk about jobless people. Like, you know, the major chunk of this population would be from the LGBTQI community. And let's say in 2022, when many people lost their jobs in like one day, like the first row was LGBTQI community. And now when we have like a major crisis on a job market, like South region, like specifically Odessa region, this crisis is like enormous. People cannot find the job. People have no money, right? So, and LGBTQI community will be kind of the first suffering from that, right? So that's why kind of, you know, the need of this community to be addressed, to have like, you know, access to food, to medications, right? So it comes from being kind of put aside and discriminated in many settings, right? On, let's say, shelter systems, right? So LGBTQI people in shelter systems, like widely discriminated, right? So, and gay men are always at risk of violence, right? Trans people are always at risk of their identity being not recognized. They would be placed in their own environment, right? And would again kind of suffer from violence, right? And lesbian women, for example, are usually caregivers, right, to children or older members of the family, right? So, and their input would be invisible because kind of they are not kind of a part of a traditional nuclear family, right? And with that kind of, you know, we can just go on with the partnership and family issues, right? So even if we're not talking about people who are fighting in the front line, just like casual situation. I mean, that's stupid to say, but it's casual for Ukraine, right? So, for example, your apartment building was bombed, and you and your partner is there, right? So, and if you're not registered as a civil union or as a marriage, right, how would you prove that you are related to this person, that you actually have a say in how they need to be kind of taken care of, right, in case they injured, right, or needs kind of, you know, surgeries and stuff, right? So, or in case of death, right? So you have no say in that, right? And this kind of the discrimination that LGBTQI community experienced in a peaceful setting is much more visible right now. And this community needs a very sensitive approach. And this community needs like constant feedback, right? Because the needs are constantly changing. right? We cannot apply one approach in 2022 and expect it to work perfectly in 2025. It's not working like that, right? So constantly monitoring the situation and seeing how the situation develops would be kind of the right approach here. Like in 2022, we had hate crimes on the rise, right? Unfortunately, with um, development of self-defense units, right? So some kind of units were kind of feeling that they're in power here to teach LGBTQI people how to look like, how to behave. Many gay people were kind of suffering from this approach. That's kind of, random guy with a stick would teach them how to be a man, right? So and we had enormous number of violent hate crimes, right? And we addressed the national police, right? We addressed the National Guard, and this kind of problem was kind of not exactly eliminated, but at least addressed, right? So this is the other parts that I would like to address later in our conversation, how we build relationships with the government at this time.
Thanks, Lenny. Sofia, I know you have your hand up for a while. You've had it for a while, so go ahead. Please, what are your remarks on this questions or anything else you want to add to what Lenny was just saying?
Yeah, thank you, Lenny, so much. Because Lenny have a much more deeper and let's say institution like memory of how it was in Ukraine. Yeah, you understand what I'm talking about. Yeah, Lenny, how it starts and how it goes, because I came a little bit later after Lenny. Yeah, so now I see Ukrainian LGBTQI movement from very let's say different angle, because I used to work in show business. I used to work in creative spaces, and that's why I came to LGBTQI activism to add more let's say celebration stuff. But we definitely know that's a big topic in Ukraine. When we will start celebrate like Pride, yeah, or something. But anyway, in our field, we trying to work more with brands very popular, the most popular brands in Ukraine, to make the collaborations during the Pride. This year we include even more, like more than 100 brands, and it shows the very interesting thing that I need to mention, that according to because me personally, I'm psychologist, like by my education. Yeah, and I can say, talking about NDI researchers, National Democratic Institution researchers, that for the last 3 years, more than 78% of Ukrainians said they don't mind for LGBTQI people to have the same rights. Maybe it doesn't, is a very big context. Maybe they doesn't understand, some of them don't understand what mean the same rights, or blah 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 blah. But in general, that's a very positive perspective. In general, it's very positive perspective. So what we have for now, we have a positive Ukrainian society who supports Ukraine. We have a very positive and powerful brands in Ukraine who supports LGBTQI people during the Pride Month. They are not just like changing their avatar, you know, like in rainbow. Because for us, it was a big dream for us, for example, 5 years ago. If at least one brand will change this, like their avatar, it will be big successful. For now, for us, that's like, because we're working with them, that's like, okay, you change your avatar, that's nice. That's it. Maybe you can make some donation, maybe you can make some made some kind of like your product dedicated to pride or something, and businesses start to understand that it's much more better for them to support this topic in these ones that do nothing, or even worse, do something bad. In Ukraine, we're mostly trying to work with brands and superstars, because Ola Polakova, for example, that's our ambassador.
I think you just touched upon a very important topic of partnerships, and then you as a creative person, and then creative community from, creative LGBTQI community, you were working mostly with influencers, businesses, bringing the problems and also getting engaged with businesses, influencers, pop stars, rock stars, etc. Lenny, I want to go back to your statement that you wanted to talk more about government and your work in advocacy, and how do we see the relationship between the community and government is changing. I think this is a topic that is also important here in the US, especially now as we see some of the rhetorics from the new administration changing. Topic on DI, on the diversity, inclusion, equity and inclusion changing. And for us humanitarians, that's always a very sensitive question. And working with governments for our organization is really here in the US, as we engage in advocacy work. We're advocating for Ukraine and peace and long-lasting and just peace for Ukraine, not just ending the war on Russia's terms. And I think for the LGBTQI community, advocating globally, but also in Ukraine, and having that relationship with government might be very different. So I want your take on that, because you wanted to really touch upon this question.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mike. Let me probably split the question in two, like international advocacy and like advocacy now inside the country with the local kind of government and the national government, right? So, kind of, international advocacy and connection with the governments that are actually define the politics and define the future of the movements in the world, right? They are very much supported by kind of corporates and brands and kind of community that is not directly engaged in the politics, right? So, and yeah, I'm just like greeting kind of Sofia's optimism, but like if we look at the global arena, unfortunately, brands are kind of falling back, right? So, this Pride season, right? So many huge brands, right, withdrew their support for Prides, right? And many Prides in the US and in Europe, in Canada, are short of funds, right? Because this corporate support is kind of falling back and not there anymore, right? And if you look at kind of the major brands that used to kind of paint the logos rainbow this year, no, right? Like very kind of little amount of brands, right, did that, right? And unfortunately, kind of this is the tendency. This is a new world that we're living in, right? And we need to adjust to that, and we need to adjust our practices, and we need to unite as a community, right? And we need to find new approaches, right? So this approach was working for many years, right? But right now it's really kind of time to find new ways and new approaches how to work with the governments on the world, global level, right? So, and how to work with local governments, right? So, in Ukraine, I would say our relationships with the government did not change much, right? Since kind of, you know, like post-COVID times, right? So that's like pretty much the same, right? So the current president was like, you know, silently not here nor there about LGBTQI community, right? So and kind of not supportive but not opposing very much, right? So and actually my position, my personal position, right, at this perfect time in history, right, we need to not to oppose our government and our nation. We need to understand, we need to be on one side, right? Say, look at what's going on in Ukraine right now. Apart from major aggression, major war that we are suffering from, apart from infrastructure that gets like ruined every night, and we need to restore it every night to keep life going. Apart from the economy that is holding on this like little kind of tiny hair right in the air, right? Apart from the corruption scandals like raising one by one, apart from the partners, the global partners that are failing their promises like every day, right? And apart from this global politics that is changing all the time, here is our community demanding and protesting. So do we need to be kind of this protest, or do we need to be a supporter? Do we need to build the conversation with the government? Do we need to support the government? Do we need to understand how our society is suffering right now? So in terms of, for example, civil partnerships, right? So I think like our community is going the very good way right now. So I think probably kind of a bit of a context, right? So the fight for equal marriage for LGBTQI people started in Ukraine like over 10 years ago, right? And since that time, we had like approximately 10 different project bills that were presented into parliament, right, for kind of reading, like, and some of them were not even looked at, right? Some were kind of going through the first reading, but really failing before the second, right? So, and unfortunately, the latest project bill for civil partnerships, right? Unfortunately, it's not there anymore, right? So, and the community is now preparing kind of the next one. And right now, the community is kind of getting ready to present a new bill, right? So, and to work with the parliament into kind of, you know, integrating this bill into kind of the next parliament session, right? And kind of looking at the opportunities to adopt it, right? So, and how we do it, right? How we present why we do need it, right? Because our soldiers, LGBTQI people, are they on the front line, right? And their loved ones are waiting for them here, right? In the peaceful setting, right? So, and being married, or at least being kind of formally recognized partners, would make life easier for everyone. So this is the example of great advocacy of building the dialogue and like making people understand, appealing to kind of, you know, all the values that we have in common with the society and the government, right? And helping the government actually kind of not to demand, like, you know, come and do this for us, but to offer them, here is the thing that we want you to help us with, right? Please, let's look at it together and let's go forward together with promoting LGBTQI rights in this specific way, in this specific topic. So, I mean, kind of, this is like a little example, right? So, but the main kind of outcome I would like our participants to come out of this webinar today is kind of building the dialogue is the future for Ukrainian LGBTQI community, building the dialogue with the government and supporting Ukraine in the fight for victory.
Thanks, Lenny. I don't see any questions in our Q&A, and I just want to encourage our participants, if you have any questions for Lenny or Sofia, please put it in the Q&A. It's the little question mark on your right. We're welcome. Again, this is a very interesting topic, and Lenny and Sofia are very knowledgeable about questions, as you may see, and then with different perspectives. And I think if you have any questions, please let us know. And I see, Sofia, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, it is very interesting for me to see how Lenny saw their perspective, what is going on from in Ukraine. Like I don't want to say that it's not right or something, but I'm feeling it different, really different. I'm feeling that, for example, where we now we used to be around like 10 years ago, because for now we need to you know, to push government not just to support Pride, because I was in a let's say coordination team who were creating this Kyiv Pride this year. Yeah, and the staff was really shocked and really like unhappy compared to previous years. And we started to understand that we are started to turn to kind of police government or something. As a human rights activist, I can't do anything, because every location, every business, I will start to communicate with to do some kind of event about Pride, and they will announce it immediately, the same time, 10 minutes or 1 hour later, police will call them and they will pressure them. So the thing is what I remember, that when I started to work in Kyiv Pride, maybe 6 years ago, it was one of the most powerful human rights organization, the example for most of. But now we can even deserve like 15 minutes or 15 meters to walk for our demonstration. And the problem is not only in LGBTQI people. That's the thing about human rights, freedom of speech, and other stuff in Ukraine. Because if, for example, police or government can push so much on Kyiv Pride, who are really have good connections with diplomacy missions, other very important institutions, and blah blah blah. And if even government or police can push on this organization, that's a big sign. And if they will step back, that's a big sign for Ukrainian civil society, that in the future maybe they will not have that freedom of speech of how we know it for now, for example. That's what I was talking about.
Thanks, Sofia. This is very interesting perspective. And I think for us, like we were, as an organization, we're part of the Pride Parade for 2 years. And I think for a parade, for any type of activity, there's always its time, in place, and in history, and in the overall development of the society, for the society to also accept or deny certain rights and certain expression, but not just the rights, but expression of what people are thinking. I want to say there is one question. I'm gonna quickly look at it. there is a question or comment from Ron. He's saying, thank you for this important discussion. I donate to Outright International every year, including on Give Out Day this month. Is there a way to make an additional donation specifically for Ukraine? And that's great. Thank you, Ron, for your contribution. That may be a question for Lenny, if there is any way to donate to Ukraine. But also, because we're coming close to our time, I just want to kind of circle back to the beginning of this discussion. And amidst the war, and we understand that the community, every different group needs of every different group, and especially we know the community of LGBTQI people, individuals need more support or different type of support, and a lot of organizations are working on it. But I just want to kind of say and give a more or less an open-ended question, and then Lenny, you can start with this, and also tell Ron if there is a way to donate to Ukrainian outright organization directly. But the question is, as an activist and as a human rights activist and a leader in LGBTQI community, what is that gives you hope in Ukraine right now after so many years of homophobia, but also changes that started taking place before the war and how the war affected it? Is there hope, and what do you see Ukraine after the war, and how do you see Ukraine after the war?
Right. First of all, I would say, Ron, thank you so much for your donations and for supporting LGBTQ organizations and Ukrainian organizations. This is very important to have supporters like you, people who understand that this is the process that would not end kind of, in next months, right? So we saw kind of, many people in 2022 that were kind of coming on board, supporting, donating, but then kind of 23, 24, and now 25, unfortunately, the number of people who are even aware of what's going on in Ukraine and LGBTQI community, specifically in Ukraine, increasing like rapidly, right? So again, when in Canada or in the US, I'm getting these questions: is the war still going on, right? So kind of, and I'm like, hey, people, hello. I know that it's not in the news, but please, let's not be ignorant. Let's really kind of follow and look at what's going on in the world, and where is the threat, and what is actually is a danger for LGBTQI community in kind of outside this kind of Western bubble, right? So, and how our community lives there, right? So, well, so I strictly believe in Ukraine, right? So my country was fighting, it is fighting, and I believe that Ukraine will never give up. Right. So, I mean, Ukrainians are diverse, right? So we have different people. There are many Ukrainians in the world, and we all have different opinions, right? And so kind of, I know that kind of, unfortunately, we're not like acting as one, but still kind of there are so many people who are on board with our fight for our nation, for surviving as a nation, as a country, as a state. And I believe that LGBTQI people are a big part of this movement, right? Of this people who oppose the war, who fight for independence, right? So, and I believe in this community. So this community is my community, and we will win anyway. I strictly believe in that, right? So, but we need the support from people like Ron, from people who came here today to listen to our conversation, right? So we need this support. We need to feel that we're not alone. That's kind of, you have our back, and you are here to support, to donate, to say a few great, good words, and to keep us going. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, United Help Ukraine, to keep going and to supporting our community.
Thank you so much, Lenny. Sofia, we'll turn the table to you for just a minute or two of final remarks.
I just want to add from my perspective, as I'm working with the British government and a lot of British in this institution, as obviously as I'm human rights activist or LGBTQI activist. I'm working a lot here with the LGBTQI community. And for the last Pride in Ukraine, that happens a little bit more than 1 week ago. Yeah, we bring one of the most famous and biggest entertainment event of queer people in London to Ukraine, like 4 people. And for them, it was like what I am trying to explain, that for them, it was not commercial, it was political. They said, like, that's not about us, and only in you, in Ukrainians, we see people who fighting for the dignity. We see people who fighting for their rights, and especially during the war, and especially we understand how it's hard to fight for LGBTQI rights during the war.
This is great, and that's what we're gonna continue to thank our supporters in the US, in England, in Canada, everywhere in the world, people who stand with us in our fight for rights, dignity, freedom, and justice. I think that's important. And then for Ukrainians, for all, you know, we all wish one thing is victory and end of this war on long-lasting and just terms. And I think this is where the community must come together. Lenny, I totally agree with you that this is an important, crucial moment in our history, in Ukrainian history, that we have to be united. And I would like to thank you, Sofia, and you, Lenny, for being with us today, and to all our participants and listeners, to Darina, who is behind the scene, making this webinar so successful month after month. And
Darina,
yeah,
Darina,
thank you so much. Stay tuned. We will have another one coming at the end of July. Please spread the word, continue to support communities, organizations, and each other. So thank you all so much, and have a good day.